Sunburn and Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spisser here and welcome back to my channel, but also a special welcome to you if you're joining me here for the first time. Before we get into today's video, I just do want to say, if you're not yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I also have a podcast called Simply Do the Work, and in the recent episode I talk about Kanye West's recent antics and his anti-blackness, as well as the issues surrounding people making jokes about Megan Thee Stallion's shooting. But I'll link my podcast in the description down below, so please do check that out. Now that we got the, formalities out of the way, as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be discussing the messiness, basically the problematic issues of K-pop. But okay, let me just put a disclaimer and say that I'm not hateful or anything. I just feel like these are conversations we need to have, and just things I've noticed since joining K-pop. So how did I get into K-pop? Now, I think like most people, my first real introduction to K-pop was through Psy and his hit song Gangnam Style, and that was like literally worldwide viral sensation. And then I believe he had another song called Gentleman, and after that Psy and K-pop literally fell off my radar for maybe like maybe 3, 4, 5 years. And then in 2017, I remember, because that was my final year in high school, one of my friends reintroduced K-pop briefly. She like played a few songs for like a group of us, and some people were like, ew, what are you even listening to? Like, I don't even understand what these people are saying. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cute, this is kind of like a vibe. But I didn't really get into K-pop really. I vaguely remember seeing BTS perform DNA at the 2017 AMAs, and so I never really like got into like the music and the genre till like recently, like this year, when BTS released their album Map of the Soul 7. That was like the first full-length K-pop body of work I got into. I even did a reaction to it on my channel, and since then I've just really been easing myself into the genre of K-pop. And I remember because now I was watching a lot more K-pop music videos and all of that good stuff, I remember then I started seeing videos on my recommended, like racism in K-pop, cultural appropriation in K-pop, or why I unstand insert group's name. And at first, my first initial reaction was, I pretend I do not see it, because it's kind of like, like I just got into this and it seems so fun, I'm really enjoying it. I don't want to ruin it for myself by getting into all the mess and stuff. But me being me, I'm a messy queen, okay? I live for mess. So about 2-3 weeks ago, I actually started watching all these different videos that tackle the issues of K-pop. And I do want to say, like, I feel like obviously there is that thing of, as soon as you realize almost like the dark side of K-pop, for some people it ruins the experience for them. Whereas I think a lot of people, though some people, their intention is to shame and to some people, their intentions aren't pure when they're making these videos. But I think for the most part, we just want everyone to be informed consumers, know exactly who are you supporting and what does it mean to be supporting these people. Because I think I've said it, I can't remember in which video I said, but I said in a previous video that I feel like the problem is a lot of us aren't critically thinking about the content we consume. We just passively take it and not realizing the problematic messages or how it's affecting and harming other people. Because I think also people have this mindset of, oh, but if it's not offending me or not affecting me, then I shouldn't really care. And that was just sort of like, I don't know, a brief, introduction, just like paint a picture of like the context and where I'm coming from, because I do want to, just put it out there in case I don't say it already. My intention is not to be hateful in this video. I really just want to start a conversation. Like with any of my videos, I'm just trying to start a conversation. So if you do disagree with me, feel free to let me know but respectfully in the comment section. So I think, okay, before I carry on, let us just have a clear understanding of what K-pop is, because if you actually look into it, the term K-pop is kind of a misnomer. It's kind of a misleading term, because you'd assume, oh, it's Korean pop music, it's Korean popular music, it's the popular music in Korea. But actually, if you look, a lot of the bands, a lot of the groups and the idols who are gaining international recognition, they represent only one part of the Korean music industry. And what we all generally know as K-pop music, in Korea, it's known as idol music. You know, it's the trainee system and the synchronized dance moves and the variety shows. All of that is part of the idol industry, which is separate from, if you think about, actually, apparently the most popular music style or genre in Korea is ballads. And there's actually a good video by, I believe it was called Baby Gang, that really breaks down what is K-pop and all of that. But I just felt like we need to get that understanding, because I do feel like some people look at K-pop and they find it childish. They look at it and they find it very manufactured, which, you know, while that can be true, I think we should also be we should be careful not to just use a wide brush to paint an entire industry. And so, even though for this video I will mostly be speaking in general terms, because for the sake of just simplicity, just understand that I'm not saying that the entire industry is like this or it's like this for everyone. And so one of the biggest criticisms that people have, especially when you talk about the dark side of K-pop, is the slave contracts, is the fact that the artists are so heavily controlled by their companies. And, you know, there have been cases that have come up in recent times of companies being underpaid, being mistreated, and, you know, all the strict rules. It's kind of like, sometimes when I hear the stories of these idols, it breaks my heart, because they were literally scouted as children and they were put into the trainee system they started training from just a really young age. And it's kind of, I can't imagine what it must be like to be away from your family for so long and to have all these strict rules in place during your formative years. Also, just the constant scrutiny, the media scrutiny they get. And even if I just think of how the beauty standards in that industry are extremely high. And so just if you experience all of that from such a young age, how it can really shape you, how it can be potentially traumatizing. And so I do also think that we need to extend the idols some grace, you know, in circumstances. So like, sometimes I feel like some of the biggest issues with the K-pop industry is the fans, is the media and how they respond. Because even in terms of the scandals that they get, things which are seen as scandalous in Korea, in other parts of the world don't necessarily make that much news, or they're not necessarily considered an issue, you know. And I think also we do have to recognize that there is that cultural difference. We have to understand that, okay, you know what, there's certain things which I might not understand, but also me being, you know, an African, and just looking at how Asian culture, I've noticed there are certain similarities between Asian culture and African culture in terms of the having respect for elders, in terms of just the conservativeness and having to be modest. Contrast to like Western culture, which, you know, now pop music has evolved to a point where, I mean, it still happens. There still is the body shaming. There still is, you know, the heavy sexism and misogyny that especially female artists experience in the Western media. But I do feel like in K-pop it's a little amplified. And also do want to make the comparison, because I feel like sometimes the training system in Korea is heavily criticized, but sometimes when I just listen to their stories, it really for me mirrors what Disney Channel, like, you know, Disney and Nickelodeon, how they basically groomed and made their child stars. Like, if I think of artists, like when I think of the generation of Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, the Jonas Brothers, they talk about how they basically went to school together. they the music that they made at the time wasn't really their music. They didn't have any creative control. They were basically given the songs like, here, sing this. They were told what to wear. They even their personal lives were controlled in the matter of, I think of Mitchell Musso, who was fired from the show Pair of Kings because of a DUI he had. And so the reason why I'm making this comparison, because I feel like some people, they're so quick and easy, they easily judge the K-pop industry for being too controlling, too whatever, not realizing that but y'all do the same thing, or y'all have also done the same thing. It's just good old-fashioned capitalism. Okay, that's how a capitalistic society works. And yeah, I think also another thing that, like as I was mentioning on terms of the cultural difference, is I've noticed that it seems as if most parts of Asia are behind in terms of social progress with the rest of the world. And I'm saying this not as an excuse, because I do feel like sometimes, especially when these idols and these groups and these companies get caught up in scandals, they use that as an excuse where it comes to issues of cultural appropriation and racism. It's always, oh, they're from Asia, they didn't know, or they're not a lot of black people there. And it's really frustrating. I must say, it is so frustrating as a black fan just to see the rampant anti-blackness from the companies right down to the fans. And it's honestly not surprising. There's actually a recent incident with Hwasa from Mamamoo, I believe, where she was wearing what looked to most of us as an African attire, an African outfit, right? And so a lot of fans expressed outrage that this is cultural appropriation. How can you just wear? And at first they were saying that she was scaring people while wearing African outfits, but now others are saying no, it was just like prank stuff. The whole, like, the people are debating in terms of like the translation and semantics of what is actually happening, because at the time when I saw the clips, there were no English subtitles, so I didn't really understand what was going on. But okay, cool, so that happened. I'm not too pressed by that. I'm pressed, but that's not the biggest issue of that situation. The problem came when the company responded. And actually, girl, let me pull up the response and read it to you guys, because when I say this is a mess, I literally mean it is a mess. If I can just find it. Oh my goodness. I should have planned accordingly. I should have just planned accordingly. Okay. So the company said, we have received negative messages regarding Hwasa's outfit. We want to clarify that this outfit originated from a Korean sauna look that Hwasa often wore on our program. We had no intention of comically representing a traditional outfit of a particular country. We realize that some of you have falsely identified Hwasa's outfit as a reflection of the Nigerian traditional outfit. Furthermore, due to the comic nature genre of our show, some of you have shown concern suggesting a comical reflection of traditional outfits and the possibility of it leading to racism. However, we want to assure you that we had no intention of relating her outfit to a specific culture. We hope this provides an explanation for your concerns. And so, right? So I'm on stand Twitter, by the way. And so while I'm busy, calling out this girl's problematic behavior, her stands are just slapping this apology in my face. Where was the words I'm sorry? First of all, there's no apology. This isn't an apology. This is an explanation. They're just justifying and making excuses. They're basically, how it comes off to me is they're saying, oh no, y'all shouldn't be mad. Y'all got it wrong. Y'all got it twisted. This isn't. We didn't steal this from you guys. No, this is our thing. Okay, and I feel like what also adds confusion and just makes it whole types of mess. Okay, look, I'm South African, right? And so I was like, okay, you know what? I actually know someone who is of Nigerian descent, who's Nigerian, right? So I sent the picture to her and I asked her, what do you think about this? And she was like, the way she explains that, okay, look, yes, Nigeria wears that, but Nigeria isn't the only culture that wears it. Even within Nigeria, not all Nigerians is that outward part of their culture. Because I also saw some Nigerians on Twitter were saying, how dare you guys think this is our culture, this is not me, this doesn't represent me. And it's kind of like, okay, both sides of the argument are true, right? The people who are Nigerian and they do not see offense in this because they do not see this as being their culture, but also those who are saying, wait, this is my culture, it is being used as an aesthetic, and then them saying, no, this is what we wear in a sauna. It's kind of like, oh, so it's your sauna people that stole this from the West Africans. Is that what you're telling me? So it's like, oh no, we didn't steal it first, this is how it's done around here. It's literally like, I just feel like it's just, fingers are just being pointed everywhere, like no one is taking that. My problem is no real accountability was taken. I just really feel like they gaslit us. This is gaslighting 101. They gaslit us, and now they're making us look like the clowns. Like, it's like, y'all can't even recognize your own culture, or y'all can't distinguish between African and Korean. I feel like I'm not even explaining it properly because it's messy. How do you explain mess like this? And this also points out to another issue in K-pop, which is the stan culture. The stan culture is so toxic. It is so bad because literally, let me just clarify, I do not hate Hwasa. I do not dislike Hwasa. Like, I barely even know her. I don't even, like, as I said, I'm new to K-pop, right? So I haven't really listened to Mamamoo's songs. But the thing is, in a lot, I've seen in quite a few the videos I watched on the racism, cultural appropriation of K-pop, Mamamoo's names came up a few times, right? And then another group that came up was G Idol. I'm not really gonna speak on them because I don't know much about them. But my issue is the way these stands were they were guns blazing to defend their faves. It's one thing to disagree with me, but it's another thing to try and silence me or like gaslight me to the point where, you know, the problem is with stan culture, right? As soon as you go against someone's fave, they make these little group chats and then they start mass reporting your account so you get suspended. And it's like, why am I being attacked for speaking the truth? Why am I being attacked for speaking my mind? If you don't agree with me, just move. But these people don't recognize, like the stans don't recognize that their faves are fallible humans, right? They see their faves as being these perfect beings who cannot do wrong. They basically, and it's not lost on me, these are grown adults, okay? These are grown adults. Y'all don't need to be babying grown adults. Cool. There's that. And there's also how a lot of stands, noticed when their faves do something wrong, they just blame it on the company. Like, it's anytime, it's not their fault, it's the company's fault. But I'm like, okay, look, I do understand how obviously if you're under contract, as an artist, you have limitations in terms of what you can and cannot do, what you do and do not have a say on. But on being tired alone, like some of these groups have been called out multiple times. Like at some point, you also have to be like, nah, these idols themselves don't care. Like if I got called out for the same thing over and over again, at some point, right, I would say to the company, can y'all please hire new stylists? Can you please look into finding new producers, new songwriters, because I am tired of being dragged like this. And that's also the issue with some of these companies, like when their idols are being viciously attacked for these things, the company is nowhere to be found. I think the company just sees it as, you know what, there's no such thing as bad publicity. They don't value their artists as human beings, they just see them as cash cows, which it does sort of create this conflict for me, because like here I have some of my favorite groups, but then they have these major corporations that are basically exploiting them, and I enjoy the group, but obviously by buying the group's music or streaming their music, I'm giving money to the corporation, which basically reinforces them, or it tells them it's okay to keep doing what you do. I mean, if they keep making the money, why would they stop doing what they're doing? And so that pretty much sums up some of the things. Oh, yes, I actually wrote here something I almost forgot: the issue of Korea booze and Asian fetishization. Now, I remember I created an Instagram Stan account, and literally the first question this person asked me was, "Are you Korean?" Which I found, at the moment, I didn't realize what was happening. I was just like, "No, I'm not Korean," and I moved. But looking back on it now, I'm like, "Oh, this is a little, it's a little cringy." Thing is, right? As a black person, I been fetishized before. I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I really love your hair," or "Oh, I really love chocolate skin." Like, I know what it's like being fetishized, and so I think that does make me sort of, I'm able to empathize and recognize when Asians speak against or speak up about, how they're being fetishized and the problem of Asia booze. But I also recognize how it's easily possible how someone like me can start fetishizing Koreans. Like, they're people who now it's kind of, there is, obviously, I do understand, appreciating another culture, right? Being fascinated by a culture that's not your own. But I think the problem comes if you start looking down on your own culture, rejecting your own culture to try to assimilate or become part of that culture. Like I mentioned in, I can't remember which video it was, where I briefly touched on K-pop, and I said that as much as I'm really fascinated by Korean culture and even Thai culture from the drama series that I watch, and I can learn the language, right? I can understand the culture, learn their customs, all that, but I will never turn my back on my own culture. I still appreciate and love and respect my own culture. And I also recognize that even within those cultures, there are certain things which are just not for me. Certain spaces that I just cannot walk into and, take as my own. I think that's why I feel like when you talk about fetishization and cultural appropriation, it all just comes together as just this whole big mess, because you find someone doesn't only do the one, they do the other. And so, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. And so I think there is a healthy way of like appreciating the culture. For example, I've been, teaching myself Thai. I've been watching some videos online, and doesn't mean now when I speak Thai, I'm going to start acting out of character. I think that's also where, like, the issue of, someone of what these Asia boos do sound like. I've seen these really cringy videos of non-Korean people who've learned Korean, and then they start, or even like Japanese, and then they start acting in what we see in the media as, stereotypical Asian characteristics, or personality traits. It's kind of, and I think that's what also, we can have a conversation of how the media continues to perpetuate these stereotypes with how Asians are being represented. I feel like not only just like in Western media, and even some of the Asian shows that we consume out, the rest of the world, it does sort of make us think, also, this is how people act in Asia. But just because they speak a different language, let's take BTS, for example, right? If you look at BTS's interviews, whether they're in Korea or they're in the United States, their personalities stay the same. You find that sometimes they when they're in their American interviews, they'll have their own inside jokes, their own things, which you find sometimes the interviewer is just there like, okay, what's going on? And as a fan of BTS, you find that endearing how, even when they're in a different culture system from theirs, they still act like themselves. And I think, with the thing of politeness and respect, the Western media or the Western world, when they look at these K-pop groups, when they present themselves in this very respectful way, they see it as being robotic. They see it as being as if these poor things are so controlled to the point where they can't freely express themselves. But it's kind of like, well, that's how their culture is. I feel like also when I look at how Western news outlets cover K-pop, you can see that the person who's doing this reporting didn't care to do the work. You can see that they didn't care to actually understand the things. You can't try to understand the K-pop industry through a Western lens. It's in the same way how I see it with how the media portrays Africa. They're trying to explain how Africa has all these issues, all these problems, but it's like you're looking at it through the lens of a European or of an American. Why don't you, just do the work? Like, if you really care about reporting unbiasedly, do the work and actually learn about the people that you're reporting on. Actually understand the culture they're coming from. And I think, I'm gonna just wrap it up there, even though I feel like a rather abrupt way to end the video, because I do feel like I'm getting a little bit rambly, and I've covered most of the points I've written down here. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what were your thoughts and opinions on my little rant/ramble in the comment section down below. I actually have 2 videos coming up. I have a video, I want to do a deep dive into BTS and Blackpink. Those will be 2 separate videos that will be coming up over the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned for those videos coming up. And if you have any specific topics you'd like me to cover in terms of BTS and Blackpink, let me know, because I do feel like both those groups, they're so different in terms of, I feel like some of the things that I briefly touched on in this video, I'll be able to really deep dive into with both of those groups. And let me tell you, I love them both, okay? I'm not gonna start an army blink war here. I love them both, and I'm really excited. To actually get this video out, to start working on those videos. But that being said, thank you so much for watching once again, and remember to like, comment, subscribe, check out my podcast link down below, and until I see you guys in the next one, I love you so much. Bye guys.